Good evening, ladies and gentle nerds. This is day 50 of 100 Days of Code. We are here in the Code Call, and we have today a very, very special guest. Someone who's been doing half of 100 Days of Code so far. It's Leon Andersen. Leon, how are you doing?
Doing great, except for a little cold. Still, I had some fever dreams, but other than that, yeah, despite that, I could still do some stuff today. I watched through the Mongoose section. Just did a little bit of notes. I didn't do much of coding along, but to me, it actually, like, I'm pretty sure I can just look up the syntax when I'm needing it. So that was a nice 2 hours of watching. Yeah, and let me check. I think some notes are still there. So yeah, I had one question, and that is, where is the data, the MongoDB data saved? Is it like in some Mongo files somewhere, or because sometimes we can create or we can insert stuff from the terminal, and sometimes we can from a JavaScript file, and then we can still comment out the code that was inserting it, and it's still inside of MongoDB. So I was like, it seems like it's not saved. The domain storage is not inside of the JavaScript files, but somewhere else, I guess. Yeah. Is that
I think I understand the question. The only part that I did not understand was, could you elaborate a little bit on the part with the commenting out? Because that's what I didn't understand.
So we sometimes we inserted data into MongoDB directly via the terminal, via Node.js, as I understood it, or maybe through Mongo Shell. I'm not sure about it. There was so much switching between the two terminals, but sometimes we also added stuff through executing JavaScript files through the Node, or was it through Mongo? I don't know, but through the terminal. And then, for example, like in the JavaScript file, we had like const something, or I don't know, insert many or stuff like that, and then it got executed, and then basically we then commented it out and added something else by executing the same file again, and both things were saved inside of MongoDB. Does that make sense?
Yes, 100%. And yeah, because the database now persists the data, and that is the point of the database, is that when different programs run, they can all access the same database, and because that data is persistent. You will also at some point learn about something called serverless functions, which are basically functions that are only spun up when an HTTP request comes in. They handle the HTTP request, and then that function, that server, basically, that mini server, is being shut down again. That's why they call it serverless, because the server only briefly lives as long as the request is coming in, and afterward it gets shut down again. But the database, wherever it is on your file system, lives forever, quote unquote. And the directories on Windows should be, the default directory, if you did not change it deliberately, should be C data db and on Mac OS just /data/db. Or if you installed it via homebrew on Mac OS, it would be /user local bar MongoDB. Obviously, I don't know if Cole told you to maybe modify anything else. So you can also obviously give custom path to MongoDB, and then it might be somewhere else. But the command to find out where it lives would be just running db.server command line options. So if you can run your JavaScript file and you can say db.server command line opts, and then then you console.log the result of that, and it should tell you exactly where the file lives from MongoDB or the database, and then you can just follow that file path and you will see where all the data is saved. And obviously, even if you change something in a JavaScript file, the data in that other folder just stays the same.
Got it. So it's I was just wondering what kind of file format that will be. I guess that's some Mongo file, or I mean, like is it in the Mongo folders? Is it is it a special file system or a data type that it's stored in, or is it also just JavaScript documents?
That depends how you have configured it. So it can be stored, as far as I know, just as like a big ass string. But it can also be the bsum that you've learned about. But I think the default thing should be just binary data. So just a string of binary data. The opening it, you would not be able to understand anything.
So in text files, or what kind of file?
Yeah. As far as I will know, it's just it might not even have any ending. So it might not be a .txt or .js or anything. It might just be a file with a certain name and just a big string as base 64 encoding the data saved in the database.
Okay, I didn't know that it's possible to have files without data type.
Bless you.
Thank you. And everyone else. Okay, yeah. So that was one question, and now I know it. That's great. It's interesting. And then I also tried, just for fun, to MongoDB route, which is like some number, like similar to localhost. I tried to open that in the browser, and it's then said, no, you have to open this with MongoDB Compass or something like that. So I mean, I didn't go further into that, but is that like a browser for MongoDB, or should I just focus on using MongoDB through the terminal?
That's up to you. Some people like to have graphical user interfaces, such as MongoDB Compass, for example. Other people just like to operate on the command line. I think you can just do whatever you like.
Okay. So then it's then I guessed correctly what it probably is. That's interesting. And yeah, what do we have? Oh yeah, I also finished the Mongo the section before, which had like 3 lessons left. So, yeah, basically updating and deleting. Oh no, didn't we do that yesterday? My brain is a bit blurred. But yeah, I think deleting for sure, and maybe I think half of updating and then deleting, and additional Mongo operators, and yeah, basically it's I might be wrong, but to me, it's like the logic behind all of it is very clear. So it's like something completely on that side. It's way easier than the JavaScript functions and all that syntax. But I guess knowing the exact syntax is still some hustle but luckily we don't have to remember it. So I don't know if it makes sense to go over the syntax because I don't remember it anyway. I just made some notes on some examples. And I don't know. I think it doesn't make sense to go too much into detail on like updating, deleting, and all these operators. Or would you say it makes sense to go over that?
No, I think we covered them a little bit last time anyways. And by the way, I just looked it up. I just created a little MongoDB in the background and followed the file path. So there are a bunch of files. So probably Mongo has some underlying engine, like some storage engine that optimizes the files and where to put what. And the files are not human readable, but in the Mongo documentation, which I also looked up in the background, it says MongoDB data files are binary files that contain a mix of BSON, so this binary JSON, indexes and internal metadata. The structure of these files is optimized for performance and is not meant to be human readable. So you can, if you want to use that command there, DB server command line options, to see where Mongo stores the data and follow it. But like like that, you just know where the files live. Like don't expect to be able to understand what's in them without using JavaScript or the Mongo shell to read the files.
Yeah, but that was also very interesting. Now, what you said, that it's like different, like engine that optimizes for performance, and that this can consist of different components as well, and maybe different files and file
Yes,
types.
exactly.
That gives me some insight into database infrastructure. That's I guess that's enough for now, but that was interesting. I like that context. Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay. What is there? Anything that's interesting? I mean, with Mongo, basically the whole thing was again about finding, updating, deleting. Yeah, we had the whole thing with the schemas, like some templates basically for basically arrays or some objects that we might want to insert, where we can set different several rules, require stuff, set defaults, and then we could also use all kinds of different methods on the different levels, like on the individual object or instance level, or on the whole collection. With these methods, one can do all sorts of stuff, like to look, for example, look for all, to find all items, maybe in a shop database that have a certain tag or that have a certain price, and to discount all of them by 10%, like a method where you only have to write that once, and then you add it at the end of the method of the instance or the database you want, and then basically execute it, and stuff like and where you basically can change the data very flexibly with many options that you can change what's in the database. And also stuff like virtuals, Mongoose virtuals, where you can basically create for example, combinations of values that are stored inside of the database to, like, for example, adding first and last name to be shown as full name, so you don't have to separately save full name because it's just redundant. But if you want to show the full name somewhere, I mean, we didn't talk exactly about the implementation, but I guess if you want to show the full name somewhere in the shopping cart or at the checkout, you can basically pull from two different values and combine them and show both just by using a shorter keyword in your in your code. And yeah, this way you're basically summarizing from different sources, and you don't have to write that much, yourself too much. Yeah, and stuff like there's also Mongoose middleware. That was a bit different than the middleware that we looked at so far. Like, so far it was more like about routing and switching from one, I think it was from JavaScript to Express, or the other way around, or maybe from JavaScript to MongoDB, I don't know. But there are also different new kinds of middleware that we looked at today. Let me see if I can get an example. Yeah, for example, you can use .pre and .post on an object that you want to print out or that you want to change, and you can get you can insert functions in there so that you get not only the main the execution of the main function, the main change in the database that you want, but you can also have that right before this gets executed and right after that gets executed, something else gets executed for. So, like, there was like a silly example, like each time you want to update the name of someone, you put into the pre that the name gets changed to something else. So basically, yeah, I think that's the only. Let me check if there was any different example, but yeah, we just had this pretty useless example, but I guess there are some more examples. So in this example, when we updated the name of an object, for example, Tammy Chow, first and last name than we had in the pre, that this dot first equals yo and this dot last equals mama. So no matter what you're trying to change the name of an object to, it will always be changed to yo mama. So I don't know what this is going to be useful for, but code says like you can use this mechanism for other useful stuff, for sequential, like for having, building more complex, I don't know, functions or use cases, I don't know. But I was not sure. To me, this seemed a bit different than the middleware that we looked at before. And there was something else. Oh yeah, that you can use. I don't know if it's if all Mongoose methods are this way, but with a lot of the Mongoose operators, you create thanables, which have similar behavior as promises, and this way you can do a dot then and dot catch right afterwards very easily, which is pretty nice and clean. And yeah, I have one more question, but I think that makes sense to ask afterwards because it's unrelated. Yeah, maybe there are some things that make sense to correct what I'm talking about or comment what I was talking about.
I think you nailed it. I tried to, you were very fast, but I tried to keep up with my code. I think I coded something along that looks probably a little bit like what you did. So here's Mongoose just imported. We get the schema class. We create a new schema with the first and last name. Then we put a pre method on it before we save to add Mr. I know it's very gendering, but I couldn't come up with something better for that. So we want becoming a Mr. What the name is. Then we create a new model with that. We do connection to Mongo. And then we create a new user, John Doe. And then we save the user, and then we also attach a post method where we could say, hey, whenever we find a user, we make them also a PhD. And here's an aggregation, which you also talked about, right? You talked about pre, you talked about post, and you talked about how to aggregate. And yeah, this is just how you would aggregate something. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
What's the difference between aggregate and virtual?
Virtual, let me look it up real quick. I don't know from the off my head. So I only know, so I can tell you aggregate from my head. So aggregate just basically takes the two fields and combines them into an aggregated result. But this field is also saved to the database.
Got it.
And virtuals do not get persisted. I think that's the difference. So virtuals do not get persisted to the database. They're only during the compute time, and are only computed on the fly. Those aggregations are committed to the database.
Yes, that makes sense. Yeah, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
And now I have one last question, and that is about operation buffering,
Okay.
which is, as I understand it, inherent to Mongoose. And as far as I understand Cole saying it, it was like you don't have to wait until the mongoose connection was established, like when starting it, when executing it in Node.js in the shell. It gets the content gets executed already anyway, and I was like, that doesn't make sense, because what if the connection fails? Like, I don't know. Probably some misunderstanding of mine.
Well, could you repeat the question? I didn't completely get it.
Like, to me, it makes no sense. Like, how can operation buffering be possible? Because if I understand it correctly, it means that code gets executed even though the database was not even up and running yet. I don't know. Maybe I misunderstood operation buffering, but like, what is operation buffering about?
I think I get it now. So as far as I understand it, operation buffering happens basically in the memory of the JavaScript program. So if the connection is lost or not yet established, then the values are saved in the kind of, you could envision it a little bit like a computer where you have the RAM, the random access memory, and you have the hard drive. And sometimes, for some reason, maybe the hard drive is not available, which in our analogy would be Mongoose. So all the data is just put into the RAM. And then once the hard drive becomes available again, you put it from the RAM into the hard drive and delete it out of the RAM again.
So is that basically the RAM of the terminal where we execute the file in, or?
No, it's the RAM of JavaScript. So JavaScript has something like called, when we were getting a little bit computer science, like this is the stuff that they teach you when you study computer science at a university, but the stuff that in your job you probably never needed. But it's basically how it works behind the scenes is JavaScript has a heap memory, and then it just gets written in the local memory from the JavaScript that is running, right? Because when you run JavaScript, it's like a program, like you're running, I don't know which apps you might have. Maybe you used to have ICQ back in the day, for example. So that's that I can come up with right now. But these programs also get allocated certain resources by the operating system that they get to use. And when you run a JavaScript file, that's the same. You're just running the program Node.js, and Node.js also gets a certain amount of memory allocated by the operating system. And in this memory, the JavaScript program can then put the data, or Mongoose basically does this as memory buffering, and puts all the data there but hasn't been written yet to MongoDB.
But we have to start all of it through the terminal, right? Through Node.js, like activated, because like if the file is like if index.js is just sitting somewhere on the hard drive, nothing is used from the random access memory.
Yeah, or only if you execute the file, you start and you execute the file right by running the Node.js program, which then knows what to do with the file.
Got it. Okay, yeah. So I guess that's what I meant in the beginning. Like at the terminal is basically allocating where the JavaScript, where the resources for JavaScript.
Yeah, and you can think of the terminal just as the hacker way of dealing with your computer. So it's the symmetry there is, we talked about how the user interface for Twitter is basically just an abstraction for all the HTTP requests, right? Because in theory, you could completely use Twitter just using Postman or any other REST API tool, and kind of the same as the desktop. So when you are on Windows and you double click on the program that you've downloaded and that program opens, you can do the same in the terminal by just calling the program. I don't know the command on Windows, but on Mac, if you type open and then the name of the folder, it just opens any folder the same as you would just click through the Finder and find the folder that you want to open and then open it that way. Or you can click right with your mouse and then say new file and you create a new file. The same command, at least on Mac, in the terminal or on Linux in the terminal is touch and then the name of the file. So lots of these commands that because before we had the user interface, before we had the mouse and stuff like that, people were interacting with computers only through the terminal. So the operating of your computer using a mouse and clicking is just clever mapping of all the commands to specific clicks that you could usually just execute in your terminal.
Got it. But like I can't really open a JavaScript by clicking on it anyway. Like
Exactly,
I can
because
open it
that doesn't make sense, right? There's no useful user interface abstraction there.
I mean, through the normal file browser in Windows, when I see a JavaScript file, when I double click it, it can only open in an editor.
I think probably there's a way to hack it. So you can probably do it so that the double click on the JavaScript file is, instead of opening it in an editor, it opens, it runs Node.js on it. I'm sure there's a way to do that if you know well how to program low-level stuff. And because the double click on the file currently, if you say it opens in an editor, is just mapped to the equivalent command that you can run in the terminal. On Linux and Mac, it would just be code, which is how VS Code is in the terminal when you install it on Mac and Linux, and then the name of the file. So you could just say code index.js, and then it would open in Visual Studio Code the index.js file, because that's what's happening when you run the Visual Studio Code program on any file.
Interesting. And you can set which is your editor somewhere, so you could set it to Vim as well.
Exactly, yes. And you can say also Vim index.js, and then it opens it in Vim.
Nice. And so is it a fair comparison to say Node.js is to JavaScript files what a music player is to MP3 files?
Yeah, you could say that, and you could say VS Code is to JavaScript files what a DAW, so Ableton or Fruity Loops, is to the audio file.
Got it. Nice. That's some metaphors I can work with.
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah. Fun. Interesting. I like it.
Sweet. We are done here. Thank you everyone for tuning in. If you're watching the recording, thank you first of all for watching. We hope you benefit from it. And why don't you join us live? It's always fun. You can ask your questions in the comments. We answer every single question. Well, the rare times that questions come in, because it's still growing. And if you're on your own coding journey, keep in mind you want to code every day. Take an example from Mr. Leon Andersen here, who, despite a cold, he still just does a little bit of code, keeps his mind occupied, keeps it into the back of his subconscious mind. So that if you do that as Leon does it, then you will just develop an intuitive understanding for the language, which over time will just enable you to be very quick with it, be very efficient with it. And in the meantime, you can pick up consciously all the knowledge that you want to pick up to understand how to talk to computers and basically make them bend to your will, which is an important skill, especially as AI gets better and better. Being able to program is basically the literacy of the 21st century. So that being said, thank you everyone for tuning in. This has been day 50. We are, halftime already, but we are not nearly done here. So expect a lot more to come. And this has been the Code Call with
Leon Andersen and my mentor,
NF Nil from 10x Dev. Thank you everyone, and we will see you tomorrow.
Until tomorrow. Bye bye.